How often do we explain our lives by pointing to really massive, monumental choices we've made?
Oh, all the time.
Right. We look back and we say things like, I chose this specific university, or I chose this exact career path, or, I chose to marry this person.
Yeah, those big anchor moments.
Exactly. We sort of frame our entire existence, our whole identity, really, as though those 3 or 4 massive decisions are the sole architects of the life we're living today.
It's a very natural human tendency to think that way. I mean, we inherently want to see our lives as this series of grand, definitive milestones. Mm-hmm. It gives us the sense of narrative control, a feeling that we can point to a map of our history and say, right there, that Tuesday, that is the exact moment where everything changed.
But what if our lives aren't actually shaped by those dramatic lightning bolt choices at all?
Right.
What if instead who we are becoming is determined by tiny, almost invisible daily directions? Welcome to our deep dive reflection titled, From This Week's Sermon by Our Pastor.
It's such a vital topic for us to sit with today.
It really is. And our mission over the next little while is to deeply unpack the beautiful insights from the pastor's message on the Gospel of Luke, specifically chapter 9, verses 57 through 62. We're going to deconstruct what this text actually says about human hesitation and, extract the blueprint it offers for a genuine spiritual journey.
I love that.
We just want to sit with these truths together with you as fellow believers and share a moment of wonder about what it truly means to walk the road of faith.
It is a beautiful and, honestly, a really necessary mission. And as the pastor shared with us, before we can even begin to look at the specific individuals Jesus encounters in this passage, we first have to fundamentally rethink our very definition of what a spiritual journey looks like.
Yeah, we have to reframe it.
Exactly. We have to move away from the idea of faith as an event and understand it as a trajectory.
And to help us visualize that, the pastor shared an analogy that I haven't been able to stop thinking about it all week.
Oh, the airplane one.
Yes. So imagine you're on a flight leaving New York, heading to a very specific destination, say Los Angeles. Shortly after takeoff, the plane's navigation system gets bumped and is off by just 1 single degree.
Just 1 degree.
Right. Now, at first, if you're looking out the window, you wouldn't notice anything wrong at all. I mean, a 1 degree shift is completely imperceptible to the human eye. You still feel the hum of the engines. You still feel like you're heading exactly where you intended to go. Mm-hmm. Yet, as the hours pass, that tiny, invisible 1 degree difference begins to compound. The gap it widens. Mm-hmm. And by the time you're supposed to be landing, you find yourself descending into a completely different city, hundreds of miles away from your intended destination.
Wow.
What is so profound here is how perfectly this mirrors the mechanics of our spiritual lives.
It really does. It paints such a clear picture of a heartbreaking reality the pastor brought up. Church member confessing, somehow my faith has grown very cold.
That coldness doesn't happen overnight. It rarely starts with a massive rebellious decision to completely walk away from God.
No, it's just a 1 degree shift.
Exactly. Skipping 1 moment of quiet prayer, letting a grievance linger instead of just forgiving. Day by day, little by little, the direction shifts.
And we have to remember the exact same principle governs our growth, too.
Oh, right, the positive side of it.
Yes. The person whose faith becomes incredibly deep and radiant didn't necessarily experience a singular dramatic moment of perfection. Mm-hmm. They simply maintained a 1 degree shift toward God.
Just a steady direction.
Right. If we look at the biblical Hebrew word used throughout the Old Testament to describe this, the word is derek.
Derek.
Yeah. Now, derek is often translated as way or path, but it doesn't just mean a physical road of dirt and stone.
Okay.
It encompasses a person's entire way of life. It's the trajectory of your daily habits, the quiet direction of your heart, and ultimately the ongoing state of your very existence before God.
Wait, I'm struggling with that a little bit, actually.
Oh, how so?
Well, if faith is defined by this gradual, ongoing direction, this Derek you're talking about, doesn't that undermine the whole idea of being saved in a single moment of grace?
Ah, I see what you mean.
Because we talk so often about the exact moment we give our lives to Christ. Mm-hmm. If we emphasize the daily walk so heavily, do we risk losing the beauty of that initial unconditional grace? Like, how do those two concepts coexist?
That is a really crucial tension to navigate, and it's a great question. The initial moment of grace, what theologians call justification, is absolutely a free gift. You cannot earn your way onto the path.
Right, you're placed there.
Exactly. But being placed on the path by grace implies that you are now meant to walk it.
I love that.
Jesus himself in Matthew 7 talks about the wide road and the narrow road. Entering the narrow gate is just the beginning. The wide road is comfortable. It's the default direction of human nature. The narrow road requires continuous, intentional direction. Grace puts you on the road, but your daily choices, your derrick, reveal whether you are actually walking it or just standing at the gate admiring the view.
Wow. That makes a lot of sense. Faith isn't just the entrance ticket, it's the walking shoes.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Which brings us perfectly back to the Gospel of Luke. If our lives are defined by the direction we walk, we have to look really closely at the direction Jesus was walking.
Absolutely.
There's this breathtaking turning point in Luke chapter 9, verse 51. It says, "As the time approached for him to be taken up to heaven, Jesus resolutely set out for Jerusalem." Some translations say he set his face firmly.
We really need to pause and unpack the historical and psychological weight of that phrase.
Yeah, please do.
Jesus setting his face is not some fleeting emotional response. It is a completely determined, unwavering direction. And we have to remember the historical reality of what Jerusalem represented in that moment.
It wasn't a tourist destination.
No, not at all. Jerusalem was not a place of triumph for him. It was the epicenter of religious and political hostility.
Right, it was the place of the cross.
Yes. And we often sanitize the cross in our modern minds. We wear it as jewelry,
We really do. We forget the reality of it.
But Jesus knew the brutal physical mechanics of Roman crucifixion. He knew the betrayal of his closest friends that awaited him. He knew the sheer agony of taking on the sins of the world.
Just the weight of that is unimaginable.
The terrifying reality of the cross was looming, and yet he fixed his face toward that exact road. He refused to look back or change his direction, even knowing the excruciating cost.
Think about the profound comfort and also the profound challenge in that reality. Jesus walked into unimaginable suffering with a set face, entirely for you.
Yeah.
His love for us wasn't a casual, fair-weather decision. It was a relentless, unstoppable direction.
It's overwhelming when you really let that sink in.
It is. And it's exactly on this difficult, determined road to Jerusalem that we see a collision between his absolute resolve and our human hesitation.
That collision is so fascinating. As he walks this road, Jesus encounters three individuals who express a desire to follow him.
Right.
But each interaction exposes a completely different psychological barrier to true discipleship.
Yeah, that illusion of passion inevitably collides with reality. We see this perfectly captured in the first interaction.
The eager volunteer.
Exactly. A man comes up to Jesus completely unprompted and boldly declares, "I will follow you wherever you go." I mean, what a beautiful declaration.
It sounds perfect.
It does. But Jesus replies with something that sounds almost dismissive. He says, "Foxes have dens, and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head."
Yeah, it's a harsh response.
I have to be honest, I find this baffling. If someone came to me with that much passion and volunteered to help with a project, I'd be thrilled.
You'd sign them up immediately.
I'd say, "Welcome aboard, let's get to work."
Yeah.
Why does Jesus pour cold water on this man's enthusiasm?
Well, to understand the why here,
Yeah.
we have to look at the cultural mechanics of first century Israel.
Okay, lay it on me.
In that society, becoming a part of the inner circle of a prominent rabbi was a recognized path to social mobility.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it brought you status, community respect, a network of patronage. This man likely approached Jesus, expecting that following a miracle worker would be a glorious, upwardly mobile journey.
Like getting in on the ground floor of a successful startup.
Exactly. He had deep passion, but as the pastor shared with us, Jesus wasn't trying to crush that passion. He was actively protecting the man from illusion.
Oh, that's such a gentle way to frame it. It's almost like falling in love with the idea of running a marathon.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
You buy the expensive shoes, you make the enthusiastic social media post about your new journey, and your passion is at an absolute 10.
Right, the easy part.
But Jesus is essentially pointing to mile 18 in the freezing rain when your muscles are cramping and asking, "Are you prepared for this?"
That is exactly it. Jesus is shattering the expectation that following him guarantees earthly stability or success, because the reality of the cross includes being misunderstood, facing rejection, experiencing worldly loss.
Things we naturally want to avoid.
Right. Many start with warm, excited hearts. But when the natural cost of discipleship arises, when their lifestyle has to actually change, that initial inspiration just evaporates. True discipleship is the quiet, unglamorous road walked long after the initial dopamine hit of inspiration fades.
And when the reality of that cost hits us, our natural human reflex is to just hit the pause button.
Oh, constantly.
We see this psychological pivot perfectly illustrated in the very next interaction. Jesus invites another man saying, "Follow me." And the man replies, "Lord, first let me go and bury my father."
Which, on the surface, sounds entirely justified.
Right. Listening to this, caring for an aging parent sounds incredibly reasonable. Honoring your father and mother is literally one of the 10 commandments.
It absolutely is a biblical commandment. But if we dig into the cultural and theological context of ancient Near Eastern burial practices, a completely different picture emerges.
How so?
Scholars note that if the man's father had actually just died, the man would not have been out on the road speaking with Jesus. No, he would have been at home, bound by strict, immediate religious duties for the burial.
Wait, so the father likely hadn't even died yet?
Precisely. The phrase was a common cultural idiom. The man is essentially saying, not now. Sometime in the future, when my father eventually passes away, when the estate is settled, when my familial obligations are completely finished, when I have more freedom.
Then I will follow you.
Exactly.
Wow, so he is asking for an indefinite extension.
He is.
Which brings up the whole psychology of procrastination. Like, why does later feel so good to our brains?
It's a trap, isn't it?
It really is. Psychologically, when we say later, our brain gives us the dopamine hit of having made a good intention without requiring the caloric energy of actual obedience.
Wow. Yes.
We get to feel righteous and devoted without having to actually do the hard work of changing our lives today.
That is such a profound insight, and it reveals exactly how the enemy operates. Satan rarely approaches a believer and whispers, abandon your faith, reject God completely.
Because we'd recognize that threat immediately and recoil.
Right. Instead, the whisper is far more subtle. Just do it later, someday. Wait until your career is more established.
Wait until the kids are out of the house.
Wait until your finances are secure.
But in the reality of faith, later almost always becomes never. Because tomorrow will always manufacture a brand new excuse.
There will always be another obligation.
So when Jesus gives that shocking response, let the dead bury their own dead, but you go and proclaim the kingdom of God, he is talking entirely about priority. The kingdom of God is not an item we can pencil into our calendars for someday. It requires our obedience in the now.
The road of faith only exists in the present tense. If you aren't walking it today, you aren't walking it.
Wow, that's heavy.
It is.
So we have the illusion of passion and the reflex of delay. But there is a third interaction that I think hits closest to home for many of us sitting in the pews today.
Oh, definitely.
It's the desire to hedge our bets. The third person says, Lord, I will follow you, but first let me go back and say goodbye to my family. Jesus replies with that famous, piercing statement, no one who puts a hand to the plow and looks back is fit for service in the kingdom of God.
The biblical imagery of looking back here is just so rich with meaning. It isn't just about a physical turn of the head. It's about where the soul remains anchored.
Right.
As the pastor brought up, there are two deeply contrasting stories from the Old Testament that illustrate the mechanics of this beautifully. Think about Lot's wife fleeing the destruction of Sodom.
Oh, right. She turned into a pillar of salt.
Yeah. God explicitly commanded them not to look back. But she did. Why? Because while her body had physically left the city, her heart was still deeply embedded there.
It couldn't let go.
The comfort, the social standing, the life she had built, she couldn't bear to leave it behind. She looked back, and her progress permanently stopped.
And then on the exact opposite end of that spectrum, we have the prophet Elisha.
Yes. In 1 Kings, when Elijah calls Elijah to follow God, Elisha is literally in the middle of a field plowing with his oxen. When he receives the call, he doesn't just walk away, he slaughters the oxen.
Wow.
He breaks apart his massive, expensive wooden plowing equipment, and he uses the wood as firewood to cook the meat.
He burns his plows. I want us to really picture the absolute finality of that. The smell of the burning wood, the total destruction of his livelihood.
By burning his plows, Elisha intentionally and completely cut off the road back to his old life.
He made it physically impossible to simply return to being a farmer if this new prophet gig got too difficult.
Exactly. He eliminated the safety net.
It's almost like signing a rigorous contract with a personal trainer to completely transform your health, but deliberately hiding a stash of junk food in the back of your pantry.
That's a great comparison.
You're committing to a new lifestyle on paper, but you're keeping the old lifestyle within arm's reach just in case the new one gets too hard.
Right, you're hedging your bets.
That third person talking to Jesus, he isn't openly rebelling, but he hasn't burned his plows either. He wants to follow Jesus, but he wants to keep a comfortable road back to his old life, just in case.
He wants the transformation without altering the center of his life. And that is the danger of the unburned plow. If we keep a comfortable road back to our old habits, the moment the narrow road gets steep, the moment following Jesus requires a painful sacrifice or standing out from the culture, our psychological reflex will be to take that road back. You cannot plow a straight furrow in a field if you are constantly looking over your shoulder.
So true. So as we bring this deep dive reflection to a close, we really have to look honestly at our own hands.
Yeah, we do.
Are we holding on to the plow of God's kingdom, or are we secretly clutching the safety net of our old lives? Discipleship is not a road we walk only when circumstances are favorable. It is a sustained, daily direction.
And, if that truth feels heavy, or if you feel a sense of conviction that you've been looking back, which, by the way, is a struggle common to all of us, there is a deeply moving conclusion from the pastor's message.
I'm so glad you brought this up.
We must remember where our true hope lies. We humans constantly hesitate. We stop at the cost. We look back at our old comforts. But our profound hope is that Jesus never looked back.
He never looked back.
Even when the crowds abandoned him, even when the religious leaders mocked him, even when the sheer agony of the cross was right in front of him, he kept his face set toward Jerusalem.
He did it for us.
He went all the way to the end for us. Because he didn't look back, we can find the grace to keep going when we stumble. His absolute faithfulness covers our human hesitation.
That is the beautiful, sustaining fuel we need for the journey. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder tomorrow morning. We talked about Elisha burning his wooden plows. But what does an unburned plow look like in your modern life? Is it a relationship, pulls you away from God, but you keep their number in your phone just in case? Is it an obsession with your carefully curated social media persona? Is it your bank account acting as your ultimate source of security?
It could be so many things.
Take a moment to identify your modern plow and ask yourself, what would burning that plow practically look like for you this week?
It's a question that requires deep honesty, but it really is the key to walking freely.
It really is. Thank you for sharing this reflective time with us. We sincerely hope that you will continue walking this beautiful, challenging road with Jesus today, tomorrow, and to the very end. May your 1-degree shifts continually point you closer to his heart. Take care, and we'll be walking right alongside you.